Donald!
Enrique!
I brought you the check for the wall.
Oh, that's so wonderful. This is far too much money.
No, I insist. Consider it an apology for doubting you. As history shows us, nothing brings two countries together like a wall.
Well, I told you, and I'm so proud of you. And changing Telemundo to all English for me, you changed that to all English. Just
of course.
Donald Trump's SNL appearance maybe didn't get a ton of laughs here. That's the general consensus, but it sure got ratings. In fact, the highest ratings for that program in 3 years. And heading into tomorrow night's debate, Trump and Carson are the GOP frontrunners. Now, the higher Carson rises, the more questions arise about his background, the narrative that basically he's hitched his campaign to. Among the questions, did he or didn't he get accepted to West Point? Did he or didn't he try to stab another kid when he was young or go after his mother with a hammer? Now, Carson, of course, he is blaming and attacking the very people that he was trying to help move his book. That is the media.
There is a desperation on behalf of some to try to find a way to tarnish me because they have been looking through everything. They have been talking to everybody I've ever known, everybody I've ever seen. There's got to be a scandal. There's got to be some nurse he's having an affair with. There's got to be something. They are getting desperate. So next week it'll be my kindergarten teacher who said I peed in my pants. I mean, it's just ridiculous. But it's okay because I totally expect it.
Well, you did write a book and put it out here as basically the roadmap for why you should be president. So when people read the book, but anyway, I digress. Of course, Donald Trump did not sit this conversation out. He stuck in this 2 cents.
It's a strange situation, though, when you talk about hitting your mother on the head with a hammer and hitting your friend in the face with a lock.
Okay. Listen, it is so tired and frankly annoying where you go with blame the media, okay? This isn't some guy that was drafted and dragged into the race here and people are trying to make up and do some muckraking. This was all in his book. He said he got accepted into West Point after a conversation with General Westmoreland. West Point says we've got no evidence that he, let alone formally applied or was ever accepted. And by the way, the idea that he got a scholarship, everybody at West Point's tuition's paid for. So it's not a little bit here or there. He's the one who volunteered that he stabbed a kid and then hit another kid with a lock and then went after his mom with a hammer. Interesting questions. Would you want to know that about your future president? So to blame the media is not only weak, but it looks like there's rampant inconsistencies with this.
I'll take that even further. These kinds of background checks by the press are essential for every candidate, but more so in a candidate like Ben Carson. Why? He's never run for office before. He has no political background. There's no looking at his history as governor or his history of the Senate and asking him about the policy positions he's taken or the votes that he made or the things that he vetoed or whatever that case might be. All we have of Ben Carson is his personal story, which is fueled by his character, the push on his character that he has turned to again and again in his book and on the campaign trail and all throughout this process. So what else do you think people are going to ask about? They're going to go through his history as a brain surgeon and try to find cases that, well, yes, the media is going to try to find cases that didn't go well.
But the other part, Andrew, where I had a problem was he claims like he's being singled out here, that they would never do it. It's the liberal media. I heard that one before, right? I'm sorry, because he went on to say they never would do this or ever did this to Obama. Ever heard of Reverend Wright?
Birth certificate.
The birther, his own guy that he's running against, still maintained he was never American. How about all the people who claimed he was Muslim and everything else? Carson's had it easy. His own words are what he's getting measured against. And the idea that Hillary's had it easy, let's see. She's been, among other things, involved in killing people and whatever. I can go up down the line. He's hardly the first one who's getting this treatment.
Yeah, no, every politician gets this treatment on some level or another, especially anybody who's running for president. The candidates who are the ones who say the media's gone too far are the ones that don't have good answers to those questions. And I think I would point out in these cases, on all of those issues that you pointed out, Ben Carson doesn't have particularly good answers on all of those questions. The questions continue to linger. They continue to fester. Look at all the work that we and other outlets have done on Donald Trump's background and the shady business deals and the Trump University and the water that he sells and all that stuff. It's because that's the information that we have, and there are legitimate questions that are out there.
Hugely legitimate. This is the president.
Marco Rubio has some questions about his use of a state GOP credit card during his time in Florida.
And his personal finances as well.
Right.
Well, let me ask you about Trump, because it seems the perfect example for where he is in his campaign. He goes on a show, and as he says, the only metrics he'll use is how many people watch from a rating point or how much money they generate from ad sales. SNL got a big rating. In fact, biggest rating in 3 years. But by almost any impartial viewing, and I saw a good chunk of it, it wasn't funny. He was made to look like a clown. I know it's a comedy show, so you're not looking for Proust here, but at the same point, at what point does it's just delaying the end of the 15 minutes? I don't think it helped him. You disagree?
I think it helps him in that we have conversations like this both before SNL with some of the protests that were happening and afterwards as people digest how he performed. I think it gives him that argument plank that, hey, the ratings spiked and all that. The other thing it does for Donald Trump is that it keeps circulating his name and conversation in free media in a way that no other candidate has relied on in this race. More than anybody else, Donald Trump hasn't bought ads. He hasn't had organizations on the ground. And so he's relied on interviews and the media coming
in the past, we used to talk about the issue of the wall with him and immigration. People would say, well, that's a crazy idea, or some people would say, oh, I'm glad he had the guts to say it. Or he'll go on to some rant. No one's talking about that anymore. They're just talking about how either big of a joke he is here or, oh, people watch the show. I don't know how that helps advance his argument that he's more than a reality guy, he's presidential. I don't hear people talk about that anymore.
I don't think it advances that sort of big ticket conversation about it. I mean, you did have incidents in the show that reminded people of the Mexican wall and his stance on immigrants. And the people who are in his base and the people who have supported him are going to, it will serve as a reminder for that. It plays small ball. It plays in Iowa. It doesn't play for a general election.
All right. And we want you at home to get involved in the conversation. So head over to Facebook and Twitter and answer this question tonight. Do you think Trump's SNL appearance helped or hurt his campaign? Okay, but coming up next, the push to make sure that 9/11 first responders continue to get the medical care that they not only need, but deserve. And a guy in particular who's leading the charge to make sure they're taken care of.